Hello everybody, welcome to UK Gaming Network, where it's once again time to put on those rose-tinted spectacles as we look back at 2008 to see if the games that we were playing 10 years ago are actually as good as we remember them. If you think that October is bad for releases in the modern day market, it's got nothing on what we had to contend with back in 2008. We're going to be focusing on our 5 favourite games later in this video, but we could have easily made it a top 10 and had no trouble filling it. Games that missed out on being included in our top 5 include the third best LEGO game from Traveller's Tales, Rockstar San Diego's take on the open world driving game, and the second and arguably best of Harmonix's Rock Band games. Although the less said about Sega's attempt to reboot the Golden Axe franchise, the better. As ever, we want to know what you think as well, so feel free to comment below and tell us what games you were playing. But without any further ado, let's get on with UK Gaming Network's top 5 games of October 2008.
Hero of Bower Lake. I'm a bard, see? And that's the song I'm working on. It's my first one. I'm just starting out.
From a purely technical standpoint, Fable 2 has not aged as well as other games on this list, with clunky animation and a sluggish frame rate. But the visuals were not what made the game memorable. Forget all the usual outlandish claims made by Peter Molyneux prior to its release. What Lionhead Studios managed to deliver was a funny and very British take on the fantasy RPG, one that expanded on the first game in every way possible. The Land of Albion is full of character, which encourages you to explore and talk to as many of the NPCs as the game will allow. The voice acting is always spot on, and delivered by a cast that reads like a who's who of British TV acting talent. Playing Spot the Voice becomes an enjoyable bonus. Sadly, it was all downhill from here for the Fable series, but we definitely hope that the rumours of a new game in the works turn out to be true.
News. I'm afraid I will be delayed for a while. In the meantime...
There was a 10-year gap between Fallout 2 and Fallout 3, and it saw new developer Bethesda completely redesign the series. Gone was the 2D overhead graphics and turn-based combat, replaced with the now familiar first-person view and more traditional action. It features a truly memorable opening, where you're literally born into the world and greeted by the reassuring voice of Liam Neeson as your dad. For the next hour, you shape your character through the choices that you make, as a small child, a teenager, and then finally a young adult, whereupon you escape from the vault into the post-apocalyptic wasteland of Washington DC. There's a vast and scary world to explore, and thanks to the many moral choices you're forced to make throughout, it's endlessly replayable. Each area you visit has its own history, and there are probably a lot of these smaller stories that you'll miss completely on your first playthrough. The brilliance of Far Cry 2 took a very long time to reveal itself. It was a game that never really grabbed us, simply because it wasn't what we expected from a Far Cry game. Of course, what it established was the blueprint for all the series entries that followed, but it wasn't until we sat down and played it properly that we discovered just how good it is. There's an impressive scale spread across 2 maps, and it features some great visuals and fantastic gunplay, but it's the sheer number of distractions that keep you playing. Hunting for diamonds as they appear on your map became an addictive minigame in itself, and it constantly distracted us from the mission at hand. It's one of the first games where you have to remember to take medicine to survive, and having guns that wear out offers a unique take on weapon management, even if it does get a little annoying after a while.
Before attacking the port, you'll need to take this forward island and build a base. Good luck.
Command & Conquer Red Alert 3 is unquestionably the silliest entry in the famed strategy series, but it's also arguably the best. It's all incredibly over the top, but that only makes it more fun. From the surely deliberate and hilarious bad acting in the story sequences, to the types of units at your disposal, it shoves pompous realism out of the way and stands there with a big cheesy grin on its face at every turn. Where else are you going to find sharks with lasers on their heads as an important part of your army? The lighter tone never gets in the way of the gameplay though, which is why it sits at number 2 on our list. Beneath the presentation, it's an impeccably well balanced strategy game, with a lengthy and challenging single player campaign and addictive multiplayer. It even worked well on consoles when it released a few months later, thanks to well thought out controls.
Our ally is under attack.
Very few games make better use of sound than Dead Space. Played with a headset on, this is one of the most terrifying games you could ever play, as you apprehensively make your way around the gloomy corridors of the spaceship Ishimura. When the grotesque necromorphs appeared, there were many occasions where we simply backed off as fast as possible, firing in a blind panic due to the fantastic atmosphere that the game had created. Labelling it Resident Evil 4 in space is a bit unfair, although it certainly stands up to the comparison, being the best horror game since Capcom's masterpiece. The only time the game really puts a foot wrong is in the infamous turret sequence, where you battle with the controls to shoot at asteroids, but that's such a small section that it ultimately doesn't really hurt the game. It's really a shame that EA didn't know what they had with Dead Space. The sequels reduced the scares, upped the action, and even added pointless co-op. We can only imagine how brilliant this series could have got with the console power of today.
Hazardous anomaly detected. Quarantine activated.
We hope you agree that October 2008 was a pretty good month for games, even if you don't agree with our choices. We're off to play the games that came out in November, so that we can come back next month and do this all over again. Why not give us a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and join in the gaming conversation over on our Facebook page. Thanks as always for watching, and until next time, happy gaming.